and they moved it.
Everything is, yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. We have brand expert, friend, mom, business owner, past client, one of just my favorite humans on today. Sara Schultz, thank you for hopping on with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Sarah, give us your like 30-second, minute long kind of short cliff bio.
Amazing. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Allison. I'm super excited to chat with this crew today. My name is Sara Schultz, and I have had lots of different evolutions of my business. But over the past decade plus, that has brought me here, I've developed a group coaching program called Brand Shift Method, where I coach small business owners who are very hands-on, they're very involved in their business to build their best brand yet, identify their dreamy client, really connect with that person on a deep, intimate level, and truly, of course, drive that brand obsession that I want for all of my students and clients. I've worn lots of hats, like I said. I have a creative agency, Free Afternoon, where historically we had done a lot of one-on-one client work. And I've just really felt called to the coaching space to help more people just like you and everyone that's listening to this really step into their best brand yet.
So, what I love about Sarah and what she's built out is that, myself included, I don't have a $30,000 budget each year to put towards branding. And I would love to. It sounds very fun. Sign me up for the photo shoot, sign me up for the fun videos, all of that. I don't get that, right? I'm a small business owner. We've got tight margins in our business. Every year we experience more and more margin compression to stay competitive. I'm happy that I can keep my staff on, right? And that I can afford nice thank you cards. That's about where we're at, right? If we're
Yeah.
hosting an event, we're trying to do like Costco lunch. We're not, there is just not these huge budgets like these big companies have. But yeah, as a small business owner, you know how important your brand is. And you know how important it is to be memorable and to stand out and have something that your clients can remember you by. And so oftentimes it's people like me just on Canva winging it, trying to figure out what's best. And there
Yeah.
is no guidance. There is like random people off Instagram that I follow their posts and I save it to my archives and go, I don't know, this girl said this. She has a lot of followers and I do that and I try and do this. And there's such little resources and directions for people who are in mortgage, in real estate, and just need something to go, here, do XYZ and stick to it. So, and that's
Yeah.
really what, so tell us more about the program, what you're kind of building out.
Yeah. So I think you are hitting on the exact pain point that I've worked on a one-on-one basis and from a student standpoint with a lot of real estate agents specifically. And you're hitting on the exact thing is like, now what? There's this parent company that needs to be considered, but you also want to position yourself as a unique contributor to the industry. You want to be different than everyone else at the company, right? And you want to truly connect with who you want to connect with. And so the first thing that most people say is like, I want a good Instagram or I want a really good website. And those are fantastic, very important channels of marketing yourself, selling your services, connecting with Dreamy Client. But those are bits of collateral for your brand. There's a whole layer of stuff that needs to be identified and created, developed before we can even get to expressing what those things are on different channels or platforms or in different forms of collateral, like you said, your thank you notes. So, what I think is absolutely critical and what I coach my students on is basically like the three key content pieces, or I won't say content because that can get confused with like the content we're creating, but maybe we should say concepts that are critical to have defined and really clearly articulated. And that's who you are as the business owner, who your brand is. And here's my hot take: you are not your brand. We have been told that forever, but you are not your brand. I can give you examples of how that is true in a moment. And then who your dreamy client is. And I think what happens is a lot of people assume they really understand their dreamy client, or they think they know who they want to target. And then through working with people, you get more data. More clarity comes into play. The market changes. I mean, you all are in a very volatile is an aggressive word for your for
No,
your
it's not.
industry.
No, it's
But
not. It is very volatile. I mean, when you
okay,
look at the
so
stats, I forget the realtor stats, but the mortgage ones are burned in my mind. There was 430 licensed originators in 2020. As of the beginning of 2025, we're down to like 94,000 originators.
Oh my gosh.
That
So
is
yeah,
volatile. That is
volatile
people
is fair.
losing houses, not being able to afford to feed their kids. That is scary world. That is
So
why people
that's
get out.
totally. So that's okay. So then that's super fair. And being able to take the data that you have when you're getting started, and then again in 3 months, and again in a year, and evolve with everything that's incoming, what you're learning about, what you like to do, what's happening in your market, what you're learning you to drive consistency through all of that change, which is very counterintuitive. That's really challenging to do. But
Yeah.
if you can continue to root down in who you are as the business owner and who, like, what parts of you are driving your why, who your brand is and what your brand stands for. And that can absolutely be something that is unique from parent company. And there are ways to express that. And then really, really, really truly understanding the demographics and the psychographics of your dreamy client, the what and the why. Why are they making their choices?
Yeah.
You are able to, well, and I would say of those three, you, your brand, your dreamy client, and being iterative in that learning and continuing to evolve as you create that clarity, you are able to make every subsequent decision for your business significantly more confidently. You can make it more swift. Something as simple as, what do I post today? If you understand you, your brand, your dreamy client, you know what it should sound like and you know what it should look like.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, should I expand into a different community? I'm moving. Like, do I bring my business with me or do I start over? I want to tap into kind of a different market. I want to work with investors instead. Okay, cool. Well, if you can really think about who you've defined as dreamy client and do those same activities to redefine, reclarify, expand, niche down, like it goes both ways, of course, you will be able to, again, confidently call those people in and help them more clearly understand what you do. And we talk about that sales funnel, right? Like, we want to get them through to the bottom to close as quickly as possible. That is the
Yeah.
best thing for all
Well,
of us.
one thing I notice realtors do, especially realtors, lenders, the money made between a $400,000 loan and a $3 million loan isn't as much of a delta as it is for a
Hmm.
real estate agent who's getting paid commissions. And so what I see a lot of agents do, especially on Instagram, is beautiful homes are beautiful homes. $3 million are beautiful homes. But I feel like you see a lot of people walking through doing videos in $3 million homes, but that's not really their client. Do you think that that messes with things because the ideal in the client first time home buyer that they're actually wanting to work with is only seeing them at that level? Or is
Totally.
that good because they see them like more experienced at that level and then they want to work with them? What do you think about that?
I think it depends on what your goals are. But if you're truly working with and excited to work with somebody with a smaller budget, consistently showing these three, four, $5 million gorgeous luxury homes is going to be a huge disconnect to your dreamy client. Your dreamy client's going to say, that's not me, so they must not be able to serve me.
Yeah.
But if you're showing beautiful homes that are in great neighborhoods within the price point, showing some features that make that home so fantastic, that family, that dreamy client can see themselves in that home. They're building trust with you. And you can then say, yeah, I place people in these homes all of the time. I would be so, grateful to work with you. I can help you get into this
Yeah.
space. I'm an expert because of XYZ. And then talk about why you're different because there's a million agents that are working in a 200 to $500,000 price point, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot more people at those lower price points than maybe the higher, more luxury price
Yeah.
point.
So one thing I always struggle with when we talk about dreamy client is gosh, I'm just like it was one of those mornings and I'm like looking at myself and I'm like, oh, my hair looks like maybe it didn't get brushed on the top. And all right.
You're doing great.
We're doing great. Okay.
Friday.
When we talk about a dreamy client, in my business, I'm not going out and looking at homes with these people on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm not putting them in my car. I don't have to have them to my home. If I'm being honest, my dream client isn't a certain price point. It isn't a certain type of loan amount. It isn't any of that. I love working with people who appreciate the service that we provide and who want to win. They're like, I want to buy a house and I got Allison. She's going to help me win. I'm obsessed with helping my realtors win and helping my clients win. And I don't actually care if you're buying a $3 million house or if you only sold one home last year. If you're obsessed with helping your one client win and you want to like play ball and be on a team with me, I'm equally as obsessed with you. If you're
Yeah,
like half in, half out on life, I'm like really not that in on you. That's
not your
just not my
person.
vibe, right?
Yeah.
I'm a real intense, all in kind of gal.
Yep.
How do you feel like, let's just role play? How would I message that to the outside world? I've started saying it.
Yeah.
It dawned on me at a conference. Like, I just like helping people win. I like to win. I like my realtors to win, and I like my clients to win. Like, that's it. So I've started to literally just say that.
Yeah.
But how in the world of branding and look and feel and how do you message that?
Okay, we have so much to unpack here. So,
Yeah.
first, I'm going to put a pin in the actual ask because what you just described was, excuse me, you taking a piece of Allison's values, Allison's beliefs, like you as the human, and
Yeah.
translating that into how you want your brand to feel. So, that was a
Yes.
great lifetime example of you have these personal values and beliefs. And that is something that is important to you to bring into your business model. And so then we can use brand messaging to help convey that important Allison value that you bring into your business, because
Okay.
that is energy that your team also needs to embody. That is energy that
Yes.
you want to convey beyond just someone that's working directly with you, right? So that's
Yes.
where just a great lifetime example, it's like you teed me up for this, of
Yeah.
showing Allison individual and the brand, the business, right?
Yes.
And you're influencing that piece of the business. So one that I thought that was a great call out. The other thing that you just described and talking about our dreamy client, you actually have two dreamy clients, really. You are going to want, like, you have a preferred partner of the actual end client who's going to move into the home, but you also have a dreamy client that's an agent where
Yes.
you're like, I prefer to work with, it's not necessarily just end user, right? So you're also using your brand message to call in the right agents that want to work with you. And
Yes.
so, um, now coming back to what you were talking about of like, how do I say that? This is where I think people just assume there's an easy button that they get to hit. And like, you're like, okay, great. Sarah's going to tell me the script. Surprise, there's not a script. What's so challenging about brand and why I think people honestly choose not to pay attention to it is building brand is a long game.
Hmm.
There are sexier,
Yes.
cooler,
Yeah.
trendier, fast wins that are going to get you like a cool hit. And then you're going to jump to the next trend and jump to the next trend. And if in the meantime, you are not also playing a long game, which brand development, brand recognition is the long game, you're missing out on an epic opportunity to build something sustainable.
Yeah.
So, in your specific example, how you said that, I think is great. I want to win and I want to work with people who want to win too.
Yeah.
So, one, we test direct messaging. Start just saying that. When you're introducing your content, you have your whatever your hook is, then you say, "Hi, I'm Allison Larson. I help let's say we're specifically trying to educate end users like the client that's moving in, not
Yep.
agent specifically. I help you win your dream home with the best rate in the most efficient process, like whatever those differentiators are, like you just literally tell it to them. And
Yeah.
let's test. Does that very blunt, direct messaging work for your dreamy client? Are you seeing an uptick in engagement, not likes? Let's just quit the obsession over that double tap heart. Engagement. Are they messaging you? Are they saving your content? Are they sending it to their partners because they're like, I think Allison is the person for us, honey? Like,
Yeah.
you want to tap into that. So one, we just start testing the words that are connecting. Two, we test multiple different variations of that brand message. And again, all of this messaging, I'm talking about testing right now. So there's like an unlimited number of ways we can say different things. If you can root the start of that testing in you, your brand, your dreamy client, you are not starting from zero. You are already starting at a very educated point because you've identified already, oh, dreamy client has this deep hunger to win. There's like a little competitive nature. And then we can start talking about some psychographics and demographics of these people. They're probably high performers in school. They did great on their SATs. They
Yeah.
probably got great grades. They
Yeah.
run businesses that are, multi-million dollar or multi whatever six figure, right? Like you're going to start to notice this common thread of these people that have this desire to win. There's nothing
Favorite.
wrong
Okay, this is
with
really
not wanting
interesting.
that.
Because at the
But
very
yeah,
beginning, I said, I don't really care. I don't have to have them in my house. I don't have to have them in my car. I don't have to spend the whole weekend with them. But
that's
what's
what
funny,
that's what
like
most people really think. That's what most people think is like, I don't really have a specific, oh, you just don't have a
you're
demographic. You
you're
have
totally right.
psychographic.
Because when I get on Zoom with my clients, 99% of the time, I we get off topic and I would be instant best friends with them, which will not
Yeah.
surprise you whatsoever. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I get on Zoom with them, like even this morning, I'm like, oh, you work here. Oh, do you know so and so? Oh, what's this? And we have this
Yes.
instant connection because I
Ding, ding, ding,
have
ding, ding.
gotten not afraid to articulate my value. Like I'm not afraid to say I want to help people win. And if I heard like if my financial advisor said, I'm obsessed with helping you win and build wealth, I'm like, yeah, I want to win. Like
You're like, where do I sign?
I've been trying to win since kindergarten. Like this tracks for me, right? I am a competitive by nature driver individual who's always trying to improve every single day. So really I'm attracting, that is a client type, that is what I'm
Yes.
attracting. And whether,
Yes.
even though they don't look in, it's not, so they're where it's not at the, I buy a 600K home and I have 20% down, that's actually my least favorite, not my least favorite client, but usually they don't need the help, they don't need the service, that they're not really scared of not winning, they kind of
Yeah.
laissez-faire in life. Typically it's just totally different. It's the person who wants to get on with me and go, I need a strategy. What about a creative option? Hey, let's talk about appraisal gap up front because I want to win this weekend when I write that offer. I'm like, yes, let's do it.
So you again are like it's like we didn't even pre-plan this content, but
We planned nothing actually.
what you are talking about right now is the power of creating that clarity. And we lifetime just coached through that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had kind of assumed, which you're not alone in this. You kind of assumed like, I don't really have like a specific person because of XYZ. You actually really do. And when you can do some deep work to understand truly who that person is, and again, what makes them tick. We just talked about winning in kindergarten. We talked about being high
Yeah.
potential. We talked about,
Yeah.
right? Like now you can talk directly to those things.
Yes. Okay.
Now you can start to subconsciously speak to these people. Excuse me, you can don't just subconsciously speak to them. We also want to do that, but you can actively speak to their subconsciouses is what I was trying to say. And really make them be like, oh my gosh, it is just Allison. There's no way. Like, how did she know what was inside of my head? You can't get that level of clarity in your brand message until you know these things. And it takes activities, unearthing. Sometimes it takes market research. Sometimes it takes like probing past clients. Sometimes it takes therapy and like a deep dive into like, who am I? What do I want? What is this all about? Like, there's just so much that you can actually tap into to create that brand message. And the last thing from this original question I just wanted to touch on, it would be terrible if I didn't mention it. Your brand message is both what you say and what you look like. And again, we have been taught that our brand message is the words we say or the words we write. Your visuals are consumed by the human brain significantly faster. There's some kind of questionable data out there that suggests 60,000 times faster.
Wow.
That's a little contended
Okay,
though in the
meaning
space.
what? Meaning that the way my video looks and the way I'm showing up on Instagram is being consumed way faster than what I'm actually saying.
The human brain's ability to process a visual is light years faster than the human brain's ability to process anything written or what they hear.
Wow.
So the look matters a ton to stop people in their tracks. And that doesn't just mean like what you look like, but it's your visual brand as a whole and how you use those visuals. So a logo or a color are processed significantly faster by the brain and are remembered at a significantly higher rate than reading the world's hottest hook on an Instagram video
Yeah.
or like the first line of your email. But if you have an incredible email signature at the end of that email, that is easily recalled by the human brain. So oftentimes we are over prioritizing message as what we say, how we say it, what we write. And we're forgetting the power of the visual story. And I see this all the time. There are people on this call right now whose visuals and how they're using them look exactly like everyone else on this call. There's no differentiation happening here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. People will message me all the time, other loan officers across the country, and say, "Can I have your email templates? Can I blah blah blah? And can I have this from this?" And I've noticed, and it's kind of funny to me, like our brand colors, if you will. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I'll go to look up a loan officer's page, and I'm like, "Oh, funny, they." It's weird.
Oh,
Their brand colors are the exact same as mine. And
oh,
it looks like they have the same font, which is funny to me because they're not the same as me. So
yeah,
I would have probably just picked something different out of just whatever. But also, I think sometimes people overthink it. And like you said, it's
totally.
a long game. Like, trust me, I don't, after you look at any brand for over a year or for 2 years, or I've had my same stuff, we kind of like changed the shades a little bit
Yeah,
um, for 5 years now.
yeah.
But I think because I've had the same stuff for 5 years, people were like, oh, your brand.
It's very recognizable as
There,
who you are.
there's nothing special about it besides that we're consistent to it. We stick to it. We lean into it. We do not veer the path. And
Yeah.
candidly, we don't know how to veer the path. Like, we only know how to do it good one way. So that's part of it. I'm like, this is what we do. This is what it looks like. Here's the 5 colors in Canva, and you do not touch any other colors. Like,
That's
that's it.
exactly it. That is exactly the level of consistency that is unbelievably necessary because then we can start talking about the psychology behind the amount of touch points you need to put out there for someone to even remember you. So I think that this is increasing. Recent data suggests 7 recognizable touch points before conversion, but we know how depressingly few people actually see what we're putting out.
Yeah.
So again, I think these are probably dated numbers, but within the last 5 years, it's been said that roughly 10% of your audience sees your Instagram content. Now, I color for a living. I'm not a math genius, but if you need 7 touch points, how many pieces of content are you creating to get to that 10% to get to your seven? The 10% of the total to get to your seven, right? Like
Yeah.
that's exhausting. That's an exhausting amount of
Yeah. And
content
I
to
think in
create.
our industry, because it's so oversaturated, I've read this stat is like 11 touch points before they've engaged, they like 11 of your touch points, and maybe now they're in on you. And
I would believe that,
I think that
especially
people
because
give up.
content is increasing.
They
Of
give up
course,
on the
people give up.
brand before they hit to 11. They give up on all of it. And the other thing I think in our industry, and I can say I've met probably was sat and had coffee with more realtors than people would. If anyone knew how many realtors I've probably met over the last decade, they'd be like, I'm what? That's insane. Most of them like aren't even in the business anymore. They only sold one house and they got out as fast as they could. But I sit down at a lot of coffee meetings and I'll ask, like, how do you get business? Is it your sphere? Is it your calling? And they're like, I'm posting on social media every day. And social media opens the funnel, but I think that it softens sales. I don't think it makes someone, just go, yep, I'm in, I signed up, I'm using you, you're my mortgage girl. I don't think that's it. I think it softens it so that when we're on a conversation, they're like, I've been watching her for a year. I
Yes.
already understand what I'm going to get. And now I feel really comfortable having a conversation about my finances. Um,
Yeah.
it's funny when you talk to realtors who do get quite a business from social, when you really talk to them, it's like, well, you're really not getting it from social. This isn't a stranger who found you on Instagram. This is the
Yes.
girl who you went to high school with, who you never talked to since high school. And she started following you and now is using you because she trusts you from your social.
Totally. There are, I mean, the statistics are insane around the importance of having a multi-channel approach. And again, the volume of content output to have a strong web presence, a great email presence, an incredible search engine presence, so like a Pinterest type platform, social, all of those working together are going to help you get those 7, 11, whatever touch points. And I truly think this is only going to increase as more content is being created. So it's going to get harder, is what I'm saying. So how do we counteract that challenge? Well, we have a design system with a clearly defined brand message in voice and in visuals so that when you sit down to create that content, or you have someone on your team creating that content, or you're going to source a template to help you create that content, or whatever that looks like, it is crystal effing clear what it should look and sound like, without what font should I use? What color should I use? What template should I pick? What should I say? What should this look like? That decision fatigue is wasted time and is not helping you at all. And it's so silly to me that so many business owners, we'll just say realtors, are unwilling to invest upfront into defining that clearly, testing and reiterating, and being armed with the tools to do that in order to finally create that clarity with confidence on what their message should be and
Yeah.
how they can actually connect.
Yeah. So you as a business owner, I love your social. I'm always interested in it. I'm always engaged. And I think largely because your values are very clear. You're a mom, you're a business owner. Sometimes it's chaotic, sometimes it's faking it till you make it, but it's so relatable that you get engaged into it. Do you feel like your dream client is oftentimes discovered from social and seeing the chaos and seeing the mompreneur lifestyle? Is Would you say that's it? A lot of it?
Yeah. I think a lot of the new people that organically find me on whatever platform I'm producing organic content on find it to be very refreshing that when they consume my content and then actually interact with me, whether that's they DM me back on a story or we hop on a, introduction, get to know you call, they're like, oh my gosh, the woman I saw online is the woman I'm getting in real life.
Yeah.
And so there's that. When I first started hearing that, I hear that a lot. And it's something I'm actually very proud of, because I assumed I'm like this sweet little naive thing. I just assumed everyone was being honest on the internet.
Same.
Hard,
Same, girl.
hard
Same.
no. Yeah, hard no. I'm like, what? People are lying here. So like, I think that's the other thing that's unbelievably important is trust is a huge value that my clients have in me. I want them, like, especially at the agency, we're talking about high ticket done for you product. I want to be able to send you one design review and you say, great, Sarah, I trust you that this is the right answer. And I cannot remember the last time I had to do a hard pivot from what we had proposed to a client.
Yeah.
And that's because I have nurtured this brand message that's like, I know what's best
Yeah.
for you. It has nothing to do with what you like or what you do not like. It is so much greater than that. I have this knowledge. You don't have this knowledge. So you're going to trust me that I'm going to help you make this decision. And so translating that now to this group coaching space is, of course, instilling that trust, but proving that I'm a human just like you so that they're like, oh, okay, I feel safe with Sarah. I know that I'm in good hands and she's going to take good care of me and she's not catfishing like everyone else on the internet seems to be doing.
Yeah.
Good old bait and switch. Like
Yeah.
it is so fascinating that those of us who are genuine and authentic, those words have been very overused, but they're the best words to describe it. We have a harder battle to win because trust has been lost on social media, on the internet. People say things all the time, acting like experts, and then we find out they're not, but we fell for it. That is like an ego hit that is so hard to take. And then we have our guard up and our wall is up. So realtors are also in that camp. People have been burned by previous realtors that didn't do a good job.
Mhm.
Now, those of us who are craving to serve, to win for our clients, have the regular hard job in a volatile market. Plus, there's this trust angle that culturally it's very relevant right now.
Yeah.
And so clear brand message that's consistent is like setting boundaries for your children with routines. They know
Yeah.
it, expect it, they feel it, and then everyone operates better.
Yeah. I always think the biggest struggle when I see a self-employed realtor or loan officer is they actually have no idea who they are. They have no idea where their confidence stands in. They are completely scared to stand in their power and say, this is who I am. This is who I align with. They would be horrified and maybe horrified that I say things like, I think someone needs to work harder. I'm obsessed with helping people win because that feels too like, ooh, don't take too much of a stance, don't have too much of an opinion, don't be too
Yeah.
like, forward. And really, if I look back, our biggest growth moment was probably when I started saying to my realtors, hey, I'm kind of in my no bullshit era. Like, if you want to win and you want to work with me, let's freaking do it. And if you don't, maybe go find a different lender partner who you call once every 6 months, and that's it. And
Yes.
half the room kind of was like, hell yeah, I kind of want that. And half the room was kind of like, eek, I think I'm gonna go now. Um, and that, but it was a huge growth moment because I want to get deep with people and I want to be in your business and I want to know what's going on with your kids. And I want to know that you're stressed and you have to go to a soccer tournament, but you're supposed to show these clients so that I can have your back and maybe help you cover a little bit that you didn't get back to them as fast as you were supposed to, or like that you literally just lost their email address or forgot about them or whatever, right? Like I want to
Yes.
work with people who we have each other's backs, but so many people just kind of like float in this in between land where they don't want to be anyone besides
Yeah.
maybe someone else they saw on Instagram. So they're
Yes.
trying to be someone else so they cannot show up consistently because they just haven't taken the
It's
time
exhausting.
to figure out who they are.
I think the other layer of complexity here that is often forgotten is that as human beings, we evolve and what we want changes in different phases of our lives. And if we are not armed with strategically evolving our businesses along with our personal evolutions, then there is no runway to build a business on.
Yeah.
So that is again why in Brand Shift Method, we start with you in the program. And we start with, are you going to therapy? Are you taking self-assessment quizzes? Are you arming yourself with something that helps you become more self-aware? And I think people think that that's fluffy, but the more you know about you, the more likely you are to avoid burnout, beat the odds of making it past the first year, the first five, the first 10 years in business. I think the recent statistic I just read is two-thirds of businesses don't make it past year 10. I am not hustling my ass off to not be here.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm here to do. So we focus a ton on you so that when you become a parent or become a parent of multiples, or there's you move unexpectedly, or there's a shift in your personal life, or you decide, I hate working with this client, I want to do something totally different, your business can ebb and flow and sometimes hard pivot with you,
Yeah.
and you're not starting over, you're not throwing it all away. Like you have so many opportunities for continued success
Yeah.
because you have that self-awareness to carry you through who am I, who is my brand, and who is my dreamy client, with plenty of room for all three of those to evolve.
Okay, let's talk about loan officers or realtors who work for brands that have their own set standards. Like you said, email signatures, and I literally wrote that down. Like, yeah, my email signature kind of sucks. And then in my head, as I wrote it down, I thought, why am I writing this down? I'm not allowed to change my email signature. Like
Yeah.
literally, it's pushed from my company. I don't get to change it.
Yeah.
If I want to change, I got a special certification, like an extra certification planning thing, and I wanted to add that credential to my email signature, and I had to like take a special ticket, right? Like there is no in between on it.
Yeah.
When you work for a company that has those set standards, which I totally understand why they have them, right?
Agreed.
It's right. You know, you think of a Compass, you think of an England Velkers, they've built a beautiful brand. You can lean into it. But then how would you recommend someone makes it their own?
I think this is a challenge, especially for people building teams. Um, But I think what is really fascinating in this space is we have entered the era of personal brand.
Yeah.
And my recommendation, of course, like stay within company protocols, but you have every right to build your own personal brand that drives to your business. And the business can have everything branded as exactly the terms say, but
Yeah.
your personal individual brand can be your unique spin on whatever it is you were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So, I think specifically for this market, what's fascinating is from a personal brand standpoint, I would try to align at least a little bit to what the business brand has to be.
Yeah.
But the other reality is people change brokerages, people change companies, right? You don't want to, and so this is ultimately the power of personal brand. You can just lift that whole personal brand up and sit it right down at the desk of your new company, and you are not going to miss a beat.
Yeah.
And so that is really the angle I would suggest, from a strategy standpoint. I think everyone on this call should be wildly invested in building personal brands, separate from their business as the key feeder into their business, because you, as a service provider, a lot of you shows up for the brand.
Yeah. And I think
Not
people
all
get
of you.
confused that that is doable. So, although my email signature has to look a certain way, my corporate office isn't going to my Instagram and saying, "How come your email signature isn't on your Instagram caption?" They're
Yeah,
not saying, "Allison, I don't like how you structure your emails or how you speak kind of casually with a client via email. We need you to communicate this way." That's my voice. My voice is my brand. My voice is my personal brand. No one can take that from me, right?
correct.
There are very easy ways to still iterate. And I think of shout out Sarah Polovitz. She's over at Compass. If you haven't followed her, she just had a killer year. And her personal brand is, I mean, when I think of her, she's always wearing pink lipstick. She always has pink fingernails on. She is always polished, professional to the nines. She is peppy. She is high energy. She's all of those things. That is her brand. Like
Yes, it is.
showing up high energy and dressed professionally and ready to sell your $6 million house. That is her brand. And being a hustler and a mom and running like a crazy person is her brand. No one
Yes.
goes, well, her logo is black and white. And I kind of wanted it to be blue and green. So I think no one thinks about the
Problem.
true logo. It's that's her brand, is her personality and her person that she's built.
1,000%. Nobody gives a shit about your logo.
No one cares about your logo. No.
It is a piece of the pie that needs to be considered, but we put
Piece of the pie I
way
try to like
much.
hide at the bottom of a one pager. I'm like, oh, do we have to put it on there? If we do, could you make it translucent? Is that an option? It's there, but no one can really see it. I literally make my logo translucent on most of our email stuff on the bottom
Yeah.
because it's there. It's just like super faded.
Yep.
Unless you were studying the email template, you wouldn't find it.
Well, and that's a really great example. So your logo is just one of the pieces of a much larger suite of assets that help convey your visual brand story. So people just put way too much weight on the logo. They're like, it has to be perfect. It has to have all these elements. It has to convey everything. No, it just literally needs to be something that you use when it makes sense contextually, that does help drive recognition, but it doesn't need to be used all the time. And you have a whole nother suite of other things that also need to be used to drive that brand recognition. So your email at the bottom of the email, I'm assuming you're talking like newsletters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense because the context is already there in the rest of the email. They're seeing who the email is from, so they know it's you. They're reading the content, so they know what it's about. Your face, I think, is on either the header or the bottom. Like there's a
The
connection point.
it's the header. Yep. It's always in
Yep.
the banner. Some like,
Yep. So
and
like
it's usually a picture, not where I'm like super professional and just a headshot picture. It is like me, I don't know,
working.
last week or last month, it was me slicing something in the kitchen with Madison, right?
Yes.
It's really me.
Yes. And those are
And me
all
this year,
additional.
not me like 10 years ago when I
Yes.
was like 20 pounds lighter and didn't have kids and the whole thing. It's like really, really
Were
true.
we all?
We did new photos and I was like, ooh, I need to lose weight. I can't use old photos before babies. I just have to get my body back together. We don't need to hide and be someone else. I want to show up
Yes.
exactly how people anticipate me to be, whether
Yes.
I love the
And
photo or not.
Right. That's so true. And those are all additional visual indicators. Those are all elements that you just described. Like there's color in your email, there's photos in your email, your face is in your email for this example. Those are all additional, when I had my list of like logo and then my
Yeah.
imaginary list of other things over here, those are also part of your brand assets. Those are a part of the visual cues that help people understand. So that's the other thing is there's a wild overuse of logo happening that is redundant and annoying and not stimulating for creating this beautiful holistic story. But when you can use all of your brand elements cohesively, consistently, mixing and matching, if you will, that is what creates this cohesive visual identity that is critical for people to remember who you are.
Yeah.
So, at touch point on your email newsletter, and then maybe you sent a direct email, like let's just pretend it's me.
Yep.
I see your newsletter. You sent me a direct email being like, "Hey, Sarah, just checking in on your progress. Like, what are you guys feeling as you're getting ready to move?" So I'm seeing you in my inbox in a different capacity. And then I hop on Instagram and I also see some content of yours. Those three pieces of content look different. They're expressed differently. They're not cookie cutters of one another, but they are all clearly recognizable as Allison Larson. And the reality that I forgot to reply to your email and the Instagram nudge is the thing that helps me be like, oh, shoot, I got to reply to Allison. I hop back in, right? That web needs to be created in the 2025 market.
Yeah.
That is just how people are processing. That is how people are connecting. That's how people are remembering. So those touch points are so critical, not just to drop people into the funnel, but also to stay top of mind to anyone existing that you're trying to work with.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say someone has how much does your coaching course cost? I'm putting
There's
you on the
two,
spot.
no, that's totally fine. There's two, I can answer this question. There's two different variations. There's base shift and there's VIP shift. Base shift is 3,200. It's a 90-day program. VIP is 5,600, same 90 days. It's just different level of care, different standard of
Okay.
care. I would say VIP is for someone who is like really craving a deep dive in and or they are not feeling confident on self-creating the visuals because that's the
Yeah.
coolest part about the program. We don't just go through strategy, which most programs do. They figure out all the foundation and they're like, okay, good luck, go find a designer to do this.
Hmm.
I actually coach you through creating those assets. And I promise it is not as hard as it seems. I do not mean to belittle like what I do professionally from a high ticket done for you
Well,
standpoint.
once you have the basics in, it is very like plug and play, plug and play. Here's my saved templates, and I'm just not gonna mess it up.
Like it like creating that color palette, creating that logo, it does not need to be complex.
No,
Coach through all of that. But VIP, sometimes they're like, hey, Sarah, I really just want you to touch this. We hop on a one-on-one call. Anyway, that's kind of like the
the
two
difference.
different. Yep.
Okay, so let's say someone has, I'm gonna say they've got a budget total next year. They're committed to spending like $500 to $1,000 a month. So we're gonna say, and I like to break it down that way because sometimes people hear 3,200 and they're like, oh, 3,200. But I'm like, I know people who are paying for coaching for $3,000 a month and I don't see them get on the coaching calls. So like
Yes.
that's crazy, right? And when I think
Crazy.
of like if you think of your average real estate commissions on a transaction or your average commission on a closed loan, that pays one of them pays for a minimum of
Yes.
the coaching program. So I like to divide it out over months. So let's say
I
I
love
was
that.
planning on spending 500 a month or $1,000 a month. So I have $12,000 for next year. I pay for your coaching program. I get my assets built. What's the other thing where you're like, I feel like this is where else I would spend my money? Is it
Mhm.
photography? Is it videography? Should I be doing video on my iPhone? What is it? And I struggle with this. I've spent so much money on things before and I'm like, didn't hit. I do
Yeah.
professional photos because like I don't know how people take good photos on their iPhone. Maybe I'll take a class, I'll learn someday. I don't know how that works, but
We're adding a content module in the group
yeah,
about that.
I'm like I don't know the photo thing,
Yeah.
whatever. But even the pictures of my kids, sometimes I'm like, I'm sorry, you always like other people's kids look so cute on the internet, and my kids always have like crusty stuff on their face, and like I have never brushed Sawyer's hair. He just has never been brushed. Um, but like should be people speak going to spend money on video because you that's one thing is in the social media era in our industries sometimes I can't even scroll my work account. I can only scroll my personal account when I'm bored because I get like FOMO and insecurity when I scroll my work account of like gosh so and so just did all these videos and I should go spend $10,000 on videos and my reels suck and yeah you get this like you feel pretty small if you spend too much time looking at your competitors on social media.
Yeah, that is a real thing. That's, I think, a part of the hook, like in deep into our
Our
psyches that
psyche.
social
Yeah.
media has. Here's what I would recommend. The first thing would be updating everything to match the new brand messaging. And
Okay.
again, that messaging has been rooted on strategy, you, your brand, your dreamy client, and everything is created with intention. So now you have a clear brand voice and new visuals. So update that across every platform. The biggest is probably your website first. Now,
Okay.
some companies, you have a website template and all you're doing is updating minor things. Some of you who are really leaning into personal brand, I would invest in building out an owned brand website that is aligned with your personal brand, separate from your company,
Yeah.
and using that to funnel people to the company.
Yeah.
So I would invest in probably figuring out a website solution, and there's a wide variety of price ranges that you can do that on. And it again, it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
We recommend Squarespace, beautiful, easy to edit, drag and drop, don't
I
need to
mean,
know
when
code.
I first got into the business, I literally built my own website on
Yeah.
Squarespace
Yes.
by myself, like on a whim on a Saturday afternoon. So if I could do
Yes.
it then years and years ago, I think now with technology and Canva and everything else, people could probably create a beautiful website on their own
Totally.
pretty
Go
cost
look
effective.
at heysaraschultz.com is built on Squarespace. Now, I obviously have a slightly different skill set, but what you are impressed about is the branding. It's the
Yeah.
visuals and the voice that make it impressive. The rest of that, there's very little customizations on my current website. There are
Okay.
some, I'm not going to lie, but you could have a very comparable website to that and do that yourself if you have that really strong foundation.
Yeah.
And you're willing to learn, right? Like that's the other piece that's really important. You're willing to learn. So web is one. The photo video thing I think is super fascinating. So right now, I just created some content around this. So right now, there's this really cool, I think it's cool shift of low fidelity content really winning. So low fidelity content is this content. Like you're taking it yourself. I was trying to hide this from you all, but I wasn't
But
able to
you're a
do
mom,
that.
but you're a mom, and that's what your phone looks like.
And
Just like
dropped in the toilet. It's we
mine
need.
has all sorts of cracks on it
Oh
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just finally took the case off. I was like, whatever, we're just gonna let it ride. We're gonna go get a new one. So low fidelity content is that content you film yourself. It's the stuff that makes people feel like she's a real human. Oh, I know her. She's just like me. I feel connected. I feel like we're just in the kitchen talking. It's not highly produced. Low fidelity content is powerful now more than ever for that trust building. And we're also seeing it being used in places where traditionally only high fidelity content got to play. High fidelity content, that's the hiring the photographer, being in a studio, professional lighting, the things that take a little bit more time. High fidelity content outside of photo video would be like actually creating graphics in Canva and making the carousel and really putting effort into it. Low fidelity content outside of photo video would be you're just using, the in-app features on Instagram to put a reel together.
Yeah.
So low fidelity, high fidelity. Historically, places like your website, your packaging, you would only see high fidelity photo video. You would only see high fidelity design. That was what was expected and that was just what the norm was. Now we're seeing low fidelity being used in traditionally high fidelity touch points. So like on your website, instead of asking here's a real life example that might make sense for the industry. Instead of asking your clients to send a headshot for their testimonial, maybe you ask them to send a selfie of them having popcorn and a movie night in their new home that you helped place them in.
I'm even
Be-
thinking of our testimonial video from past clients and realtors is like highly produced. They're sitting on a couch, they're talking to each other. I should just text people and be like, would you send me a 30-second selfie video?
and there are benefits to both, but I think this power of current low fidelity is there's no longer an excuse for you not to be doing this stuff.
Yeah.
The phone takes a good enough shot. You can get good enough audio, you can get good enough video. And if done intelligently and strategically, and only if that aligns with your brand. Like, I don't think this is the play for a $6 million buyer.
Okay, but it's interesting when I'm watching the news and a commercial comes on or something, I'm even noticing really big brands incorporating like
Yes,
selfie videos into a
yes,
commercial or a
yes,
commercial that is they probably are using a gimbal and all that stuff, but they're
they
trying to
are.
make it feel like it was shot on someone's iPhone.
They are. So, like, that play, if you're like the top tier high market, like, I would recommend not really the selfie, but you can make it look like low
Yeah.
fidelity.
Yeah.
But that's because at a higher price point, at a premium, you're trying to sell aspirational. You're not trying to sell connection. They
Yeah.
don't give a shit about connection. Like
Yeah.
it needs to be,
It needs to
I'm
be
making
luxury. If you're
it's
luxury, it needs to
luxury.
be luxury.
It
Yeah.
needs to be luxury. So this is not a one size fits all strategy, but
Yeah.
I
Like if
do.
we're going on a trip to a very nice resort in a couple of weeks, and if I went on the website and it was like all cheap videos, I'd be like,
Yeah,
"Ooh, no, I
you
want
can
to go to
invest in
the
your,
website and be like, oh, I
yes,
can't wait to like for the doors to open and see the ocean and there be the perfect
exactly.
homemade guacamole there
Like
waiting for me every day
dolphins
at three.
swimming. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
that's a great example of explaining, like articulating really where maybe low fidelity versus high fidelity you need to
Yeah.
consider.
And do you
But
think that
again,
you like a mix of it?
I think for, well, I think it needs to drive the decision.
Yeah.
You brand your dreamy client. Like that's where these decisions become easier. Cause now you're thinking like, should I do high fidelity? Should I invest in high fidelity? You want to know how to make that decision really easy? Have a clear defined brand strategy. And then you know exactly what you need to choose. So
Yeah.
like Allison, you've shared a little bit about what your goals are, who you're excited to work with. Low fidelity makes so much sense for your brand.
Yes, it does.
Have that clarity of wanting to connect and relate to the slightly struggling sometimes mom who's like, I'm just literally on my calls with Allison strategizing my home buying between drop off and pickup and soccer games and the library. You and I had a call a couple
Yes.
weeks
Yeah.
ago, solve
Yeah.
the world's problems as I was like getting kids out the door and
Yeah.
over to the
And
library and
and
shut
most of
back.
our clients are like I just did a pre-approval meeting this morning and the woman is in her car, literally in the school
Yes.
parking lot on Teams with me. And I'm like, here's this. You're freaking busy. We don't have to go through all this right now. I sent you the links. We're good. Hi, I'm Allison. Call me when you need me. I got
Yes.
you. And they're like, thank you. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that type of person probably really values a low fidelity touch point for your business.
Yeah.
So it's again, none of these strategies are
And
tied
on
by
my side,
all.
I'm not marketing someone's $6 million home. So think of this as a loan officer
Yeah.
too. I always
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, if we like I get like I'm like I like luxury things. So I like things to feel luxury
Yes.
for other people, right? But also
Yes.
if I'm sending you 15 gifts in the mail during the loan process, I also don't want you to feel like why am I paying more? What's going on? Right? Like
Yes.
my
Yes.
job is to get you a competitive interest rate, low fees, get you to the closing table, take care. That's my job. I am yeah, it's just different, no different than my dentist doesn't send me like a cupcake on my birthday because I don't really know him that well. So that would be really weird.
Yeah. I think I prefer a both and approach. For my brand, there's like two key things that are really important to me. Building quick trust and having those people feel like they know who I am so we can be vulnerable together. Because coaching, like I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you feedback. I'm going to sit here
Yeah.
and say, I don't think that there's enough clarity here. Let's really try to unearth this. Or tell me a little bit about who you are and why this is so important. Like this is like therapy. I'm not just sitting on the surface with you. We are going deep to make sure we are creating the best solution for your business. Your
Yeah.
success is literally my success. So I am invested. So I need something. Low fidelity is a great way to do this, among, of course, other strategies to help create that quick connection. And also, I want my brand to be aspirational. I need my students to say, I want what she has. So if it was too much low fidelity, they'd be like, well, I can just go do that for myself. So the blend of both on the Brand Shift sales page is a really great example of this. I have this low fidelity photo. I was with Jen McFadgen in LA, and it's just me. I took it on my phone, sitting in like a bucket hat, like casual as can be. It is on the main sales page of the program for a reason. That sales page looks so cool. It is so good. It's the best of the best, showing what can happen when you transform your business and really invest in brand strategy. But I wanted to anchor that in like, but hey, I'm still me over here. I'm just
Yeah.
still this gal that's just like you trying to figure out business in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's really where you get strategic with like a low fidelity, high fidelity. And I
I
would
think just
prioritize
having
budget
just
that
the
way.
exercise in itself to have someone help you figure out who is my coach calls it her avatar. Like
Yeah.
I'm her avatar, right?
Yes.
And she's like, who else is the avatar? And then when I say, hey, I think we should bring so and so on, and I think this, she's like, is that your avatar? No, you're right. I'm just trying to
See?
win because I have to separate sometimes. Am I just trying to win, or is this what's right for the business? So even just having
You and
someone
your
dig into
brand.
you and figure out, is this it? Is this
Yeah.
really it? And I know very, very few people who could probably sit and say, this is it. And so often lenders and realtors will send me their brand stuff that they had made for them. They'll be like, do you like it? Well, sure. Like you could have sent me anything off of Canva and I would say it looks nice. I don't think anyone's
Yeah.
going to create a brand that doesn't look nice, but I'm
They
sure I
they
like it.
do.
Yeah, but I'm like, do they, do they, is this what you, is this you? Like
Yeah.
this circle with your phone number in the middle, does that tell someone who you
What
are?
does that say?
What does that
Yeah.
say? I always find the phone number on everything thing like, when you go to, this is bad. We're gonna end with this, and like the whole industry is probably gonna turn on me. But when you go to Vegas and there's like strippers and sex
Oh
workers,
yeah, those
they
calling
hand you out
cards.
cards with a phone number on them.
And they
And
like click them in their hands, like walking down the strip.
yes, and when loan officers and realtors walk around with just like one thing or a logo that just has like their name and a phone number, that's what it reminds me of. I'm like, I don't, do you want the stranger to call you? Like, I don't really want strangers to call me off the internet. Like, I want them to
Yeah.
slide into my DM so I can see if they're normal or not. But like, I don't want someone just like cold call me and ask me a random question about a mortgage on Friday night. I remember years ago, I was sponsoring a golf tournament and someone had golf balls that just had their first name and their phone number on them. That
Yeah,
was like their genius
that's
brand move for the golf. Like,
not it.
everyone's going to get my golf ball. I'm like, that's not it
The,
for me.
this is also the power of having that foundational clarity, because then you can make educated decisions that actually fuel your business.
Yeah.
So in that instance, that person just created a laundry list of tasks. Now he or she has to deal. Did you say he? I think you said he
Yeah.
has to deal with. And he's going to have to manually filter through the wrong fit leads. Where if
Yeah.
you
Who
leverage brand,
probably honestly isn't going to have to manually filter through anything because no one's calling him off the golf ball.
I mean, I definitely also agree with that.
Like, you won't have to
But
do anything because you
you
just
can
wasted your
funnel,
money.
you can funnel people to self-select out before they ever talk to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other huge important thing that we forget about when building brand, because you can have, so like if this is the timeline of like sales funnel conversations, if you have a strong brand presence that's built on strategy and supports your business goals, people are doing and consuming without your active time all in here. And then just at the end, you're interacting with them. So
Yeah.
you're not actually a part of that long funnel with them.
Yeah.
So the power there is huge to be able to guide people through the experience and help them self-select out and in before you ever have to try to manually sell to them.
This is awful. Until a few years ago, I used to not add clients on social until we closed in case
Mm.
they didn't like me. What?
Yeah,
That
that's
is
like,
so weird. I'm like, that is the weirdest thing because they got referred from their realtor. And what if they don't like that I don't have kids? What if they don't like that? What if they hate dogs and I post about my dog and they think girls who take their dog to the dog park are stupid and they don't want to work with? That's literally what I was scared of. I'm like, that's so crazy. Now, every single time we get a lead, once we have made connection with them, if we're not connected on social, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, immediately we connect with them on all platforms.
that is such a good example of that you content. There was like some sticky happening in Allison personally for reasons that like we're not going to explore here. Maybe that's
Yeah.
for therapy, maybe whatever,
Yeah.
right? There's something there, but that another great example, was absolutely impacting your business success.
Yeah.
So if that example doesn't prove the importance of spending time in you as founder, you as business owner, you as team leader, I don't know how else to convince you, because you just teed up a fantastic example that I'm forever going to use now when I'm
It
talking
was
about
it
the
was it
importance
was
of
like it was the
you.
funniest thing. I'd be like, well, don't add them on Facebook until after it was on our
Yes.
checklist to
Yeah,
decide if I thought they liked me or not, and then I would add them. That's crazy. I could do this with you all day long
I
because you're
agree.
the best. Okay, real quick, where can people find you when they want to find you? I'll tag all your stuff too, but for those
Oh,
who are like
amazing.
walking and listening, but
On Instagram at Hey Sara Schultz, and on the interwebs, www.heysaraschultz.com.
amazing. I'm going to take all of Sarah's stuff. I can't say enough good things about her. I think you can just get a glimpse of it from this conversation. But I think that, like you said, personal brand is huge. I was just listening to a podcast about parenting, and they were starting to say if you're going to let your kids be on social media, you should be letting them build a personal brand. And that's the only reason they should be on social media in high school
Ooh.
before they even get to college, so that once they hit the workforce, they can show who they are as a person, because that's the only way they're going to get a job come 2030. And I was
Oh,
like,
bananas. Okay, well, I'm gonna
crazy.
add momager hat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Sarah, for doing this. I always appreciate it.